Hello there and welcome back. I'm Debbie Daly and this is a practice for the quads, the hip flexors, and the psoas, working with yin yoga postures. So if you have a couple of yoga blocks, then those will be useful during this practice, but if you don't, there's just one pose that we're going to mainly rely on them for that I will give you an alternative. So let's get started coming into Seiza, which is sitting on top of your heels, or if that's not comfortable to do, you can sit any way that works or use props to make it comfortable. So let your hands rest in your lap in any way that feels good, and you can close the eyes and take a few breaths here to start to check in with what's happening inside. And noticing the texture of your breath. And now opening the eyes and moving into a hands and knees position for dragon pose with the right leg forward. So making sure the hips get nice and low here. Hands can be on the inside of the foot or on either side of the foot. And if you've got blocks, some people like to use the blocks under the hands. And you can explore quite a bit here. No need to stay completely still, especially in dragon. A lot of people like to allow a little bit of movement, which allows you to feel into the different regions of your quads and hip flexors. So we have 4 quadricep muscles, and we have the psoas is the most well-known of the hip flexors, deep in the front of the hip here, but there are several others. And so as we change our angle and explore sensation here, we can move energy in all of these little regions. You might be someone who likes this variation where the right hand comes back to hold the left foot. This is certainly not for everyone. This pose is called dragon tail, so feel free to not do that and just stay right here. Good. Taking it back now into child's pose or downward dog. If you're in dog, it might feel good to walk your legs. Feel the difference between the right thigh and the left thigh. And now step your left leg forward for the same thing on the other side. And you can experiment with taking a pretty generous distance between the front foot and the way the hands are placed. And so I do encourage you to not be constrained by the width of your mat. It might feel good to you to stay within the bounds of the mat, but it also might feel good to give yourself some freedom here. And now slowly releasing, taking it back to child's pose, and rest in child's pose. Now slowly coming up and setting up for half saddle pose. So your right leg will come forward and your left leg bends here. Now you might have an asymmetrical thing going on in the hips, and that's fine. There's no need to effort to bring this hip down, and that will actually protect your knee if you're kind of at your maximum hip capacity, making sure your knee doesn't take the slack. So tilt as much as you need to. Some people like to bend this knee and let it come out to the side. Feel free to do that. I'm just leaning back on my hands right now, but if you're pretty comfortable here and want more sensation, you can come on back farther, maybe resting on the elbows, maybe resting back on a bolster or some cushions, or coming all the way back. If you do come all the way back, then you could bend this knee. The one that's extended, you could bend it. Again, you could let it open out to the side. Or some people like to hug it in like this. So the target area here is similar. It's more the quads than the hip flexors on your left leg. You can rest back. Your arms can do whatever is comfortable. Settling into it, feeling the breath, feeling the sensations happening in the body. And to release, you can push yourself back up with your hands, untuck the leg, and take a few moments here just with the legs out in front. You could shake out the legs or whatever feels good. Maybe lift up into an upward plank. That sure feels good right now. And then into it on the second side with the right leg back, left leg forward. And again, you might be leaning back on the hands. You can tilt as much as you want to. You can bend this left knee as well, which is it's sort of like a little bit of a windshield wiper mode, but just making sure the stretch is here in the front of the right thigh. And perhaps you're coming back, resting on pillows or all the way back. And now slowly releasing, come on up and come to a comfortable seat for just a few moments to rest, to feel the rebound of the half saddle pose. Any comfortable seat. Coming back to hands and knees to set up for a second set of dragon, and this time we're going to do dragon that is supported. So supported dragon pose, which is what we're going to use the blocks for. So find a height of these blocks that supports your thigh. And you might like that support in the middle, the meat of the thigh, we could say, or you might like it more under the sitting bone. I like it just a little bit forward of the sitting bone, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And the support here should not be so high that you don't feel the stretch here anymore. We want to feel this stretch in the front of the hip. So me, I'm kind of small, my legs are short, so I like 1 block at the high height here. And now with this extra lift, we don't have to have weight on the hands. That's one thing I love about this, because I have wrist stuff, and I know a lot of us do these days, so you can do a dragon with no pressure on the hands and wrists. It's a little easier to relax into. Now for the second half of this, we're gonna inch this right foot forward to the degree that feels right for you. So it might be about here for you. It might come to pretty much straight. You might feel like, hey, I could just move this more into something that looks like a split by lowering my block. Or you might easily come into front and back splits without your block. Again, keeping the target area as the back leg, so shift around if you need to. Feel free to bend the back knee if that helps, or to re-angle your torso in one direction or the other. And releasing this carefully to make your way into it on the other side. Starting with supported dragon, 1 or 2 blocks underneath. And you can decide from there if and how much you want to inch your left foot forward. Into something that looks more like a split, or just staying right there with your 2 blocks under your hip. So with this, we get to lift the torso more, which makes it more of a back bend. And in a big way, the dragon, the lunges, are really just asymmetrical back bends. So we get a little more of the back bending effect with this supported version. now slowly releasing, making your way into downward dog. Walk the legs in downward dog. And then dropping down into child's pose. And now coming up and into a half butterfly. Right leg forward. Come forward over the leg. Feel free to use a cushion under your seat if you prefer to be a little bit higher here, which might give you a deeper stretch. You can fold directly over the leg, or it might feel good to explore different angles to come inside the leg. The target area is the other side of the leg, so I'm just counter stretching here. We've been working a lot in the front of the legs and hips, and now we're moving to the back side to get a little bit of relaxing forward bending into this sequence. And it might feel quite good at this point after stretching the front body so much. Slowly releasing. Fold both legs in, sit cross-legged or sit any way that feels good, and rest here. And feel what's happening in the body. Sensing into any energy movement. Sensing any internal sounds. Sometimes I can feel this sense of the bones and the fascia sort of resonating. Let's move to the second side now. Left leg forward, right leg bent. And come all the way down onto your back for a nice rebound time. So take any comfortable position on your back to rest and feel what's happening. I have one more pose after this. Feel the effects of that half butterfly pose after stretching the backs of the legs, maybe into the back of the torso if you felt it there. Maybe some energy moving around your sacrum or anywhere up and down your spine. We're gonna move into saddle. So slowly start to come up to seated, or if you're not gonna do saddle, then you can do this as an alternative. So I'm showing you the alternative pose first, which is this supported bridge pose with the block at the middle height is what I have, but you might like the low height or the high height. Saddle pose is gonna be a more intense choice, and we will have a couple blocks available. A bolster or firm cushions also work fine for this. So sitting on the heels and leaning back on the hands. This is version number 1. Version number 2 is to open the feet and sit down in between the feet. If either of these hurts your knees, then that's your warning sign that something's not right. You need to choose a different variation. So in either of these versions, you can then come on back, maybe onto the elbows or all the way onto your back, or you could choose to stay up, supporting yourself with your hands if you're feeling enough sensation in your quads and your hip flexors. So if one version hurts the knees, if sitting between the feet hurts the knees, then please just sit on top of the feet. As you come back, you might feel like you're close to coming back, but not fully comfortable resting all the way back, and that is where blocks or a bolster come into play. So one block underneath the back of the ribs. I didn't do the best job putting these in place. There we go. One under the back of the ribs and one under the head. And again, if the knees hurt, come on out of it, prop yourself higher, or do a different version. Saddle pose is not for everyone, and that is why I wanted to be sure to give you the supported bridge version before we started. And there are a lot of variations of this pose that you can explore if the full versions here don't suit you. And I have a whole other video on that. It might feel good to reach the arms over your head if you're resting on your back. Slowly transitioning out of this push yourself up with your hands, or you might be comfortable untucking one foot and then the other. And now we come into our final Shavasana, resting on the back. Make yourself comfortable with whatever you need here, a bolster under the knees, a blanket to cover you, an eye pillow over your eyes. Once you get there, I'll invite you to take a nice wide star pose as your Shavasana variation, so that you can really allow the energy to flow through the hips that we've been working with so much during this practice. Deep into the hip flexors. Countering all of the sitting that we tend to do. And we finished with saddle pose, which is a pose that can awaken quite a bit of energy, especially around the sacrum. Notice what you feel here. Feel free to stay here for as long as you'd like to savor the effects of this practice and to continue resting. I will leave you now, and thank you for practicing with me. I'll see you next time. Namaste. If you're interested in going deeper with me, you might want to check out my membership site. I have a community of yogis who follow a daily calendar of yoga videos in yin yoga, yang flow, and meditation. I also have special programs, and I have yin yoga teacher trainings, and you can find out more about this at devidailyyoga.com. And if you take a look at the first pinned comment down below, you'll see my latest special offer. And if you liked this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other yoga videos. And leave me a comment. Let me know how this practice went for you. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to know if you have any questions for me. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Namaste.